You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Innovation Fuel, the podcast that brings you fantastic stories from entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. I am Dave and Gelareh.
And I am Gelareh Farhadian. We are educators, entrepreneurs, and your hosts. Innovation Fuel is our weekly business podcast brought to you by University Canada West. Each week, we explore diverse business models, entrepreneur journeys, experts' insight, and managerial challenges, and how companies stay agile and innovative during COVID-19. Check out our episodes at www.ucanwest.ca/innovationfuel.
Hi, Gelareh. How are you doing today? How's your mental health, by the way?
It's mental health and working from home. This is a topic that everyone talked about it. Even the parents, mothers, when I see other mothers that in the play date, it means, and they're working, we all talking about how we are managing our life, working from home, not feel embarrassed in front of the others when your kids is coming. And because there is no border between my personal life, my work, my professional life, and sometimes it's really hard to stop everything and just work. Stop everything and enjoy your life with your family and your kids.
And I think you're starting to talk about some of your values and the values of what you're trying to achieve in your goals in your life. Like, we work for a reason. We work to provide for our kids, for our family, but we also work to spend some time with them. And I think the line you're talking about is that, it's become blue. It's going to become gray, and it's been blended between work and actually after work, or work and play.
Yeah, it means because when you're working and you want to be high performer, you want to always deliver good quality and good work. So it's just a lot of stress, and you need to work ahead of others. So that is actually, it's kind of going to be a problem. That means that you are prioritizing your values again in a different way, and you're not happy with doing it. It's part of a lot of mental health issues that the survey is showing that people feel less healthier in the mental health way, because it's the border that then how they can say that this is my life and this is my work life, separated. Even you are in the one room, if you are in the one room that your kids are playing and you're working, so how we can separate it?
Well, I think we might have someone here today that might be able to help us with this journey. What do you think?
I think absolutely. We have Christina Furtado, mental health specialist. Welcome, Christina Furtado.
Yes, welcome, Christina, to Innovation Fuel, brought to you by University Canada West. Yes, we're excited for this conversation today. I think you're going to bring a whole wealth of knowledge around mental health, and we want to learn some more here, especially in COVID times. But Christina, before we jump into that, we need to know a little bit about you. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your background?
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to join you today on such an important topic. As mentioned, I am a mental health and wellness specialist with Guard.meCARES and part of their wellness and learning initiatives team. I am also actually a mental health counselor, so I do bring a wealth of clinical knowledge and experience to everything that I do within that role. And there's a lot that we offer a variety of different individuals as well as organizations around education, right? And learning, how do we cope with the way that life is going? How do we start instilling different skills and knowledge around making ourselves a better version tomorrow? Because we are beyond, our work phase. We are beyond our student phase. We are human beings, and life challenges are going to happen. And how do we navigate that? That's mental health. And we need to really reinvent how we see things when it comes to our own mental health. And the pandemic has definitely shined a spotlight on the need to do that, especially with things opening up now. I'm sure, I, for one, will endorse heightened state of anxiety of like, things are starting to open up. How is work going to be different? How is school going to be different? How are each provinces, each countries? It's all of this unknown that, frankly, for me, raises anxiety levels substantially. So I'm definitely seeing that as really where my gift can come into practice is giving people a different perspective on how to see things.
Oh, that is fantastic. I just want to say that it's because you said we can see that 31% that have a growing on using mental health drugs, medications in a household. It's a 31%. It's a lot of. It's showing that it's the whole societies are people are under stress and a lot of stress and anxiety. I think that it's a very big topic for us.
It is. And, the one thing that we can all sort of share in the experience, while our experience is very unique to us as a result of the pandemic, not only regardless of where we are in the world, but individually, how we are reacting and how we are really taking in the experience of the pandemic is very unique and personal. But worldwide, what we have shared is a traumatic experience. And when we're thinking about trauma, though, I do have to say that what trauma is a situation that causes an individual distress to where they are unsure of how to navigate that stressful situation. So there's different levels, obviously, of trauma, but that's its truest and purest definition. And we've all experienced some sort of distress to our normal way of doing things. And we've, also had certain expectations that we've sort of had as to how certain experiences were to sort of play out. And those have definitely gone unmet. There's no real clear picture of how that's going to be, especially for students, come September in the new academic year, and even just workforce. What does that look like? So it's really trying to take a step back, not become so overwhelmed with that uncertainty, with those unknowns. We have questions, and really we don't have individuals to answer those questions, because those forces, those factors that will influence how things play out are beyond our control. Those are not something that we can manipulate or have some form of influence. So one key thing that I would advocate anyone to try to do at this particular time, as we start building up the momentum to get back into some form of normal, is redefine your definition of normal. Don't set this parameter that is limiting to changes that are going to happen without preparation.
But what is, Christina, what is normal? Like, do we even know what normal is? Like, we've come from multiple generations of different things that have led up to this, and we've had technology and the phone and these things that have changed the dynamics of what normal is. Do we even know what normal is anymore?
We don't. And that's the thing. However, we never have. We've normalized situations to be normal for us.
Yes, absolutely.
Your normal is different than my normal, right? Society as a whole, their normal is different. So because we have had this experience, this routine of doing things pre-COVID, we normalized that experience. Well, that became our normal. Now we're struggling to grab a hold of some sort of path, some sort of way that we can sit there and go, okay, that's how things were done before. So now this is how it's going to be done again. The one thing that is certain is uncertainty. And the fact is, normalcy is only what you make normal. That's where we need to redefine it, is, again, that definition. How do we view it? And the one thing that I can really say is of benefit to anyone, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what age, and frankly, even regardless of what type of struggles they may be experiencing. And that is working towards this path of what is happiness for you. When you feel happy, when you have this good feeling, regardless of work life, personal life, when you have some form of happiness and joy, how do you feel? Stress levels sort of decrease. We become a little bit more pleasant to be around. Let's be honest. We've all had that, colleague or that friend that we kind of go, oh, they're in a bad mood today. I don't want to be around them. And that can definitely impact us. And because there's so much that's going to be uncertain, we need to really hone in on ourselves and what is in the sphere of our influence. What can we actually control? And what we can control is how we react to things. We can control how we feel about certain things. We can manage those expectations as long as we are flexible in our understanding that things can happen outside of our control. So what can we control? That's really the foundation that I think will be of benefit to anyone transitioning out of this pandemic into whatever is to come. And frankly, I'm excited. I'm excited for what that can bring because I am about opportunities. Look for the opportunities that you can gain. Look at the opportunities that we've gained, frankly, from the pandemic. Yes, there has been losses, and I don't want to take away from the importance of that. And though there's been opportunities gained as well. But we're so focused on the thorns of our experience that we don't look at the rosebud of the experience, which is that beautiful, opportunity, partnerships, collaborations, relaxation. For me, I was grounded. Pre-COVID, I was probably home maybe for 3 days out of a week. So I was able to actually re-engage myself in home life. I know for some that could be tricky. And that's where, again, that's my rosebud. Whereas for someone else, that might have been a little bit of a thorn because they didn't know how to navigate it. But it's looking at, again, bringing it to a position of what are your values? What do you hold most important to you? We know that work and schooling have certain priorities in our lives, right? It has a certain game plan, a certain end goal that we're trying to achieve. And that end goal is something that's important to us, 100%. We don't want to take away from that. And though what happens is pre-COVID, because we had two separate worlds that we lived in, we had our personal life, then we had our, vocational life. So whether it be career or schooling, the two were separate. We had the break in between, right? We had, the no man's land, if you will, in between where it was just our space.
But now, Christina, and you said the gains, and I think, let's talk about these gains because there is some things here that people have gained. And I think they've realized some of these values that you talked about, and they're starting to engage with some of these gains, meaning that, you have to stay home in order to do these things. You can't go to the office, meaning that now you find yourself home where you weren't at home before, and maybe you're engaging with your family more. Maybe you're more present in that relationship and that game. And maybe these things are starting to get them to realize some of these values that they've forgotten about.
Yeah, but that was the perceptions beginning of the working from home. But it's the statistics showing that 45% of people that are working from home, they feel less mental healthy and less relationship with their family. Because yes, I am at home, but I'm not engaged with them. Yeah, I'm at home, I'm sitting here, I'm working so hard, but I don't play with my daughter in a certain time. And it's very, very difficult to shut off your work at the evening when still you have some the deadline that you have to do it. And for example, when I reach my daughter, I'm too tired to play. So that is part of this. It means that was the beauty at the beginning, and I was thriving at the beginning that I'm working from home and spend more time with my family. Then came to that one is realizations that I don't have time. I'm here home, but I'm not home mentally.
Well, and that is definitely an experience that has been endorsed by many. And I will say, the 3 months in earlier days of COVID, was I working less or more than what I am now? I can probably say probably less, because I was in like la la land of happiness of like, whoo, I'm home. I can do this. I don't have to do all these meetings, and I don't have to travel, and I don't have commuting. So I leveraged things that were built into my routine of traveling from one world to the other world, but I didn't maintain it because I felt obligated. I felt this sort of duty to work, and duty that, oh my goodness, I have the luxury of being at home, but I have to still do the work. So then I overcompensated for that feeling of guilt for taking time for me. Whereas my previous routine gifted me with that time. What I need to do, and I shouldn't say what I need to do, what I have done and what people need to do. So I hope you're listening to this.
Take notes.
Take notes. There is time, because there was time before. It is now. You need to build in the time very rigidly. I'm not saying about build that schedule. No, it needs to be rigid and needs structured as to, you had time before to commute. You had time before that you took for lunch, for a coffee break, to talk, to chat with a colleague, to chat with a friend. And then once that work day was done, you were traveling home.
Exactly. That was exactly our conversation yesterday with the 3 mothers that they were working. We said that during the traveling back home, we didn't talk to anyone. We were not responsible for anything. Maybe we listened to music, close our eyes, just relaxing. But while we came home, we said, hey, it was re-energized, recharge ourselves. But now it's from this store to out. It doesn't have a time to recharge yourself,
And that's where it's important to, again, bring it back to what were those core values that you have. And, before COVID, again, we've had our 2 separate, we had our professional life, our personal life, and we can have different values for each, obviously, right? Because those are different. That's our public self versus our private self. And what we need to do is, instead of identifying all of our values, which could be a substantial number, we need to limit to 3. That's it. And that's a hard task to do. It's very hard to minimize our values to 3. And when we do that, we are able to really tease out what is truly important to me. And is what I'm doing today, is how I'm approaching the day, is how I'm approaching the moment. Is that aligned with my values? Those 3 that I've identified, or not? And if they're not, then you then have to look at, these are my priorities. I don't want to take away from my priority, because if I take away from my priority, I take away from me. When you take away from you, you have nothing left for anyone else, and you have nothing left for anything else that you have to do. There's a difference between duty and there's a difference between responsibility. You have a responsibility to being the best version of you based on how you define it according to your values. There are duties imposed on you, but it's your responsibility to determine how much of that are you willing to show up for and what are you not. And ultimately, we have a responsibility to ourselves and our immediate sphere of influence, whether it be family or friends, to be happy.
Mm-hmm. But then, Christina, there are some external forces that are playing against this thing. And we talk about external forces that I bring up is that, like we're here in Vancouver. Vancouver is a very expensive place to live. The cost of living is really expensive. Like all these pieces, sometimes these things that the wills that we want are not even, we can't get there because we need to meet those bills. We need to meet those things, those living expenses.
And that's the thing. When you are taking away from one and giving to something else, you have to acknowledge what you're taking away from. And that is where, again, when you start redefining what you want as normal, when you start aligning things to those 3 values, when you start mapping out, sort of the framework and sort of the foundation to that optimal happiness, you can then decide, what are you going to take away from? Because I have to give to this. But if you're just sitting there, and spewing out your time like it's free, you can't get time back. Time is not something that is made up. You can't make time up. And that is one thing that we've all learned from the pandemic. So we need to look at, there are only so many hours in the day, right? And we have all these wonderful things that we want to do. There's all these wonderful things that we have to do. because of paying bills or family responsibilities or even physical health and needing to take care of that. But there's still time to do everything. It's a matter of establishing, what does that time look like for you? You are the one that develop it, not someone else. When you allow outside factors in the sense of having to having to manage these expectations and duties from all different sides of things, and you're putting all of those different areas at equal level of priority in your life, of course you can't manage that. It is not sustainable. And there is going to be heightened anxiety levels because that is our natural response to distress and discomfort. Is the stress hormone gets released. Well, that's what anxiety is. More excessive anxiety is more anxiety. So there is an analogy, I guess, an acronym, not an analogy, that I use to help people to identify their stress and where am I within that stress? And it's nuts. So stress is nuts. Yeah. NUTS. So when we are experiencing heightened stress levels, right? And we want to try to engage in different strategies to help us with that, right? Or even just help us navigate, okay, why am I so stressed out? Stress is universal, right? It's across all human beings. We all experience it to different degrees. And the ingredients to stress and those key elements are also universal. So nuts is novelty. So it's something that is new to you that you've never experienced before. You is, I just had a brain blip. We're going to come back to you. It is something that is not within your control at all. T is with regards to threats to ego, or we can also look at it as to our self-esteem or our self-confidence is questioned. It's putting us into a position of not feeling confident in oneself, whether it be that imposed upon us by someone else or that we've imposed upon ourselves. And then the S is with regards to sense of control. If we are experiencing a situation that actually are each of those sort of elements and have a component of each of those elements, we are going to be at a level 10 heightened intense anxiety level because it's all at once. And that is exactly what happened with the pandemic. And that is why we all had this experience of, what do we do? I don't know what to do. That is still why we are having such high levels of individuals expressing anxiety and even depression and other ways with regards to, the sense of all of these different pieces that combined together, we can't navigate.
But everything is, I think that a lot of people know their stuff. This is stuff. The knowing it is not helpful. I don't think it's. So what kind of tools we have to actually using for day-to-day life? I mean, for example, if you say that you have a 3 values, I know my 3 values, and one of them is a health, for example, exercise. So, and I've tried many times to exercise, but then one of the other values took over their health always. So it means this is kind of the day-to-day fight. I think for me is bringing another anxiety to make sure my values in order. And I have one values, keep not sacrificing one values for two others. So it means how we can actually what do you suggest? What kind of tips do you have that we can follow this one? Especially for people who are working from home or study from home and they have other responsibility as well.
So if I put my counselor hat on, I would say you're making excuses. I would then question and say, well, while you can say that health is important to you, obviously it's not. It's not as important to you on that hierarchy, that ladder of importance, because you allowed something else to come into place instead of. So you need to explore that. And that's why we need to really look at, what is your main goal? What's your main goal? If your main goal is to increase and flourish and maintain your mental health because you're struggling, that's your goal. What do you need to do in order to achieve that? One, we need to challenge those type of patterns that we've gone into. When we notice that we're falling into that, we need to call ourselves to the mat and challenge it and actually say, this is what you're doing. I would even advocate literally to verbally in your head or even out loud say stop. Verbally say stop and say, this is what I'm doing. Have the conversation with yourself.
Okay, yeah, I do. And sometimes I'll loudly say stop.
And I do that, right? I'm like, oh my goodness. When my mind sort of goes into something like, stop. This is what I need. And, you know, we've done there's a lot of research on like positive psychology and really trying to build a foundation of optimal wellness that can be applicable to any age, any culture, and really looking at those key elements. And they've identified relationships, vitality, meaning, engagement, positive emotion, and achievement and accomplishment. If you can go about your day doing activities, engaging in conversation, looking at your structure, your routine, align it with those only three, that's it, 3 values, and bucket them into these various categories of this positive psychology or this acronym of PERMA, then what you're doing is you're making yourself accountable. And that's the hardest thing, but that is the one thing that will change everything. When you yourself can hold yourself accountable, just like you would anybody else that you expected them to do things, an assignment, a due date, a timeline, a deadline, we expect someone to meet that. We expect certain things from our colleagues, from our students, from our family. We need to expect that certain same dedication for ourselves because frankly, we're worth it. We are. We deserve that dedicated time. We deserve the rewards and we deserve to be happy. We do. I don't need to tell you that. But I'm gifting you with the permission for you to grant yourself that happiness. Because you're not taking away from anything else. To-do lists are endless. That's why they're to-do lists. There's always something new that's going to be added on the to-do list, and it's going to be there tomorrow, and it's going to be there the next day, and it's going to be there the next day.
You know, and this gets me thinking, Christina, that these values we have, these values can co-inhibit each other, meaning that if you have the value of health, great, and you have the value of family, great. Put them together. Do it together. Do the health and the family together.
Exactly. And that's where, again, when it's definitely a challenge that I would give, anyone that's watching and anyone that will is twofold, right? The first is look at what your core values are, right? You can easily search on the internet a list of various values to use as a toolkit, as a starting point, and start just highlighting, listing off. These are all of the values that I feel that are important to me. Then look at those values. Maybe some can be placed into categories, right? Maybe one is with regards to relationships. Maybe one is with regards to meaning and purpose. Maybe some are with regards to engagement. And then really start bucketing them into those various categories. And then prioritize, limit 3. If it's 3 categories, fine, or 3 values. But it's really important that we look at minimizing our top priorities to make them manageable and make us accountable. We want to feel successful. We want to feel happy. And to do that, we need to be manageable but sustainable. Bring it down to top 3 of your core values. Establish it in conjunction with the PERMA model. And that is the foundation to overcome a lot of the uncertainty, a lot of the challenges in navigating and balancing all the different hats we have to wear. We can't change the hats. We can't change the number of hats. We can just change which one we wear at what time and actually hold ourselves to that.
And if we're achieving these values, then we're, as you said, for the PERMA element, we're feeling good about ourselves. we're building in that good routine element. And if we're not doing that and we put too many things on us and then we can't achieve them, we're feeling worse about ourselves and that we can't get to that element.
And again, we're then, in those two circumstances, Dave, that you mentioned, we're releasing two different hormones. When you're not feeling good about it and you're feeling stressed about it, you're releasing that stress hormone. So anxiety levels go up and your mood stays the same, if not decreases. When you start feeling good and you start feeling happy, you actually are releasing endorphins of dopamine, right? Which is the happiness and pleasure hormone that our body naturally releases. The happier you are, the more dopamine you actually release.
Yeah, we should not go into vicious circles. That's you're not having a good hormones of happiness and you have a bad hormones of anxiety and always this, you cannot be in a good mood, and yet you should break that circle, of course.
You do, right? And it's about like that feedback loop. We get into habits, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, those habits get stuck in a negative feedback loop because we don't see an alternative off of it. And the only way to start to sort of stop a feedback loop from continuing and cycling through on autopilot is to challenge it. And whether that be challenging it through your thoughts and saying stop, or challenging it through doing it in a different way, and that's through behavior. That's what we can control. We can't control the circumstances. We can't control the events or experiences. We can't even control other people.
Absolutely.
So we have to be able to look at ourselves, our autopilot, how we want to feel about a certain situation, and take back control.
Excellent. And I think that is the perfect end to this segment, Christina. Like, let's take back control. Let's go for the positive cycle and endorse and get those endorphins going again as we move back to what we think the new normality will be, whatever that may be. Let's have some fun with it. Before we do that, Christina, we need you to throw a challenge out to our students here, or to our listeners. What kind of challenge can you throw at us?
So I'm going to challenge people to try to come up with 3 core values, because I'm telling you, it's going to be difficult, and really focus on happiness as that end goal. So what are those 3 core values that you can identify that are going to help achieve happiness?
Absolutely. Core values. Let's write it. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Dave. That was another episode of Innovation Fuel.
To all entrepreneurs and managers out there, we have ambitious students here at UCW who would love to hear from you and help you with your business through our internship, our capstone program. If you think you have a wonderful story or a challenge that you want to share with our students and our audience that you think they can benefit from, we want to hear from you. We want that information. We want you to be a part of this show. We also want you to join our mentorship program. We've got a great mentorship program to help students as they move on their educational journey towards getting into a career or launching a new opportunity. So reach out to us, connect with us at www.ucanwest.ca/innovationfuel.
You have just listened to the Innovation Fuel podcast with your hosts, Dave and Gelareh. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Google, or Spotify. Join us next week for another innovative story. Thank you for listening and have a great week.